So Conan O'Brien is hosting the 97th Oscars on March 2nd, 2025. I am excited about this. I am a Conan fan. I wasn't a fan in the beginning when he took over for Letterman. I think it was like 93 when he took over the Late Night with David Letterman. And Conan was new, and he was still trying to figure things out, and he wasn't Letterman. But then once Conan had like Triumph the Insult Common Dog and Pimp Pot 2000 and the year 2000, once he found his rhythm, Conan was great, man. And then and then he gets to the Tonight Show. NBC in 2009 forces out Jay Leno because Jay didn't want to go. They gave it to Conan, and then Jay they somehow negotiated a primetime reality show at 10 o'clock on NBC, which is crazy because it was like instead of his desk being over here, it was over there. It was the same with the Tonight Show at 10 o'clock, and Conan was like, "What the?" It was a whole thing. And then Conan was like, "I'm out of here, man." So Conan went from like June 2009 to like January 2010. And then Jay came back into the Tonight Show. And then Conan went over to TBS, which was a great move because it opened him up. And then towards the end, he cut the show down to a half an hour. But he also was doing this great thing when he was traveling to different parts of the world. He's almost like it was like a late night version of Anthony Bourdain. I miss Bourdain so much. But yeah, his shows was great. So then he ended his TBS show in 2021, and he still got Conan Needs a Friend podcast, and he still does his travel things around the world. He has these travel specials, but for the most part, Conan's been kind of chilling. So the fact that he's available to host the Oscars is great because I was starting to think like Kimmel's done it like 4 times. And I think Jimmy enjoys it, but it's a grind. Like he got his late night talk show and then you have to prepare for the Oscars. And I think Kimmel would do it like every other year or every couple of years. But I think he was getting burnt out from it. And I started thinking like, who else do you have? Like I couldn't think of anybody that Hollywood kind of likes that's funny that can hold your attention for like 3 hours. And most comedians today, either A, they don't want to do it, or B, they're not really that funny. You know, like someone like I think someone like Steve Harvey could do the Oscars, but I don't think he want to do it because it can only if you do a good job, you never get praised. If you do a bad job, it's over for you. So Steve Harvey could be up here on the. I can imagine him being on the being on the Oscars and saying like, "All right, top nominees for Best Picture, blank, 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 and the Oscar goes to." Oh, y'all ain't gonna believe this. Tyler Perry's Divorced in Black. Oh, I'm sorry, Wicked. I would tune in just to see that. And he gives it to Tyler Perry instead of Wicked. It was like, what? That'd be fantastic. But for someone like Steve Harvey, I'm sure he's been asked before. If the ratings aren't huge, or if you do mess up like that, you get torn to shreds. Like Joe Coy. He was chosen to do the Golden Globes. I think that was this year, to be honest. He got chosen last minute to do the Golden Globes. He was trying to be edgy like Ricky Gervais. And again, you can't be edgy like Ricky Gervais because that's Ricky Gervais. And he tried to be a little edgy. And the audience, first, they really didn't know him. And they didn't like his jokes. And now the first thing when you type in Joe Coy's name, one of the first things that pop up is Golden Globes. So it can only hurt you, right? If you do a bad job. And he's been around for a while. But a lot of people still don't know him as a talent. Conan's different. Like if Conan succeeds or fails, it doesn't matter to Conan. He can just say, "Hey man, I did it once," you know, and if it works, I can actually see him being the permanent host. Because I think Bob Hope hosted the most. Hope hosted it 19 times. Billy Crystal hosted it 9 times. Johnny Carson did it 5 times. And I think Whoopi Goldberg, Kimmel, and Jack Lemmon hosted it 4 times. And then you get a potpourri of people. I think Steve Martin did it like 3 times. Jon Stewart hosted it back in the 2000s, which I forgot about. So Chris Rock hosted it like 3 times. So there's people who have done it multiple times. But I can see Conan end up being a 4-timer if he does it 4 years straight, 2 years on, 1 year off, 2 years on, because he's 61 right now. So if he's going to host these awards, it's have to be between now when he's 61 to about 68 or something like that, or 66, something like that. So he's a solid choice. Now here's the thing. Here's something the Oscars have to understand. Don't worry about the ratings. The heyday of when Billy Crystal hosted, well, listen, when Bob hosted the Oscars back in the day, the Oscars was a big deal. people tuned in to just see stars and movies, right? Even when Billy Crystal hosted it, people loved Billy Crystal. And then you had a lot of great movies. If I ask you, name me the five past best pictures, you might be able to get one. Like last year, it was Oppenheimer. That was the most recent. Oppenheimer won last year because of the whole Barbenheimer thing. And Chris Nolan finally won the best picture after not winning for The Dark Knight, which he should have won for The Dark Knight. But I digress. So yeah, so I remember that last year, but then I said, then I started looking at the list. Oh yeah, Parasite won a couple years ago. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. But these names don't really stick out. Like if I off the top of my head, the only one that really stuck out of like the past 10 years that stuck out was La La Land. Only reason that stuck out is because they had that weird thing with Moonlight where they said the winner is La La Land, is Moonlight, or is Moonlight on La La Land. I can't remember which one actually won. I believe it was La La Land, but it was that mistake. But if it wasn't for that mistake, I probably wouldn't have remembered La La Land winning. So the Oscars, they have to understand, like, the award shows, all the award shows aren't where it was once upon a time. Kids today, this is a TikTok generation. This is a YouTube generation. If they want to see who won Best Picture, they'll just check their phones later in the day. They'll just check it a couple hours later. People are not going to sit there and watch these award shows for 3 hours. Like the BAFTA Awards in England, the British Oscars, I think that's only like 2 hours long. And that's the way it should be. Like when I'm watching the Grammys should not be three hours long. It's basically, they just give out maybe 5 awards and all the rest of the performances. Like, I don't care about the performances. I actually want to see who won best song, best hip hop record. You know, I'm even best classical. It's like, I'm actually intrigued to see what's winning best classical, right? I don't care, like, cause they all got like special performances to keep you tuned in. They'll say something like, up next, we have a special performance by Elmo with Megan Thee Stallion. Stay tuned for the 67 Grammy Awards, only on CBS. I'm not intrigued about Elmo and Megan Thee Stallion. I'm actually intrigued more by Elmo and Cardi B. They're both cartoon characters. So Elmo Cardi B performance would be very, that tickles. That would be, oh my God, Cardi B and Elmo doing WAP. That's not good. But no, these award shows, 2 hours should be long enough. 2 hours for the Grammys, Golden Globes. Golden Globes a little bit different. They give out the Sesame the Middle Award, but Oscars should only be 2 hours. Just give out the awards and just have a good time. So who do you think, let's say Conan O'Brien is a one and done. Let's say he does it and it goes well, but he said, hey man, it's on my bucket list of things to do. I'm just going to do this. Let's say he only does it one time. Who do you think would be a good host? Because when you look at most people that can do it, honest to God, I'm not sure. I'm sure there are people, if you guys start giving me some names, so it's like, oh yeah, that's a good choice. But offhand, if I'm thinking from a comedic standpoint, I don't know. I would love to see Cat Williams host it. It will never happen. Welcome to the 60th Oscars Awards. All will be revealed tonight. Oh my God, Cat will be tremendous. But they probably won't do it. I'm sure they probably asked Kevin Hart. They probably did ask Kevin Hart. And I think Kevin Hart would probably be pretty good at it. But like I said, the risk of it, if he does a bad job or the ratings not working, is too great. I remember, I think right before the pandemic, I think Eddie Murphy was supposed to do it and he bowed out. But man, I really can't think. Like Hugh Jackman, probably Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. If, I could see Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds hosting the Oscars. In fact, they might have asked them to host it this year. But I can see them. They're actually a really good comedic team together. So I would say Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. But what do you guys think? Maybe Nikki Glaser down the road, maybe? Nikki Glaser. But yeah, it's hard because that audience, man, if they don't think you're funny, they'll turn on you. They're worse than Swifties in the Bayhive. But man, shout out to Conan O'Brien, man. I miss seeing Conan on TV. Conan's a funny guy. Shout out to Conan. Man, I can't wait. I love Oscar season. I just award season in general.